All right, so we are live. We should be able to see the comments. I am going to see if I can pull up the live on my phone in case we can't see the comments. But as people jump on, please feel free to comment where you're listening from. Today's discussion is planned to be extremely interactive. So, for those who don't know, I am Tab Bartley. I am a Marine Corps veteran. I have worked on in comms and PR. Well, now I feel old. Probably 15 years, I think. I'd have to do the math.
You feel old.
15-ish
Tab,
years.
I'm older than you.
Just saying that number though, I was like, oh, okay. Um, so Dan and I actually have never met in person, but we're constantly interacting on LinkedIn. Again, interacting a lot of times talking PR, comm stuff. And I thought this would be a great opportunity for two people who are within the career field. I have more nonprofit and federal experience, as where Dan has a mix of for-profit, nonprofit, and federal. So we wanted to have this conversation. So Dan, I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit while I make sure I can see the comments, and then hopefully people will start joining us.
We do, and I already see one. So I see Daniel. So Dan's here in San
Perfect.
Antonio with me. Talk about a Marine Corps. So all right, well, we won't go off on a tangent, but you talk about a Marine Corps guy. Dan is great, photographer extraordinaire. And the first time I met him, he's like, "Oh, I did like photography for the Marine Corps for like 20 years." And you're like, "Okay." Dan's awesome. Anyway, Air Force, retired TACP, JTAC, so got to do some cool stuff. Baltimore cop for about 7 years, and then I always have to have my claim to fame. I was with Black Rifle for almost 4 years, working for Evan and the crew, and that was awesome. And then kind of branched out on my own, and that's where I've been now. Is this when you talk about what is that? What's I don't know.
The Defense Information School is a schoolhouse that all public affairs, comms, artists goes to of all the branches of service.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and then just been doing stuff my own. So I've worked for 2 nonprofits. I still do like the TACP Foundation. We'll do a plug. I run their social, right? But we're a tiny little, organization because it's just Air Force TACPs, stuff like that. So that's kind of my background is diverse, but it's intense.
I love it. And I think we're going to have a great conversation. And again, we already have like multiple people in. And
yeah.
I think that, Dan and I were talking about why did we even like feel the need to do this? Well, I had an incident the other day where somebody in an organization posted a photo of a service member that was it was AI generated. And I'm not going to completely bash AI today, but it was AI generated. The hair was completely out of regs, and then the uniform was an Army uniform. However, the nameplate said Marines. And so, I private messaged this individual. I was like, hey, you're really going to probably want to take that photo down, change it, because people aren't going to listen to your message because of how inaccurate it is, right?
Yeah.
And the individual shot back, it's so hard to find images. You should find one for me. Instantly, again, if anybody knows me, Blunt Bartley I would say I'm somewhat calm sometimes. However, I was like, yeah, no, that's completely the wrong answer. But it spurred me to where it was like, okay, I feel like we need to have this conversation. Hopefully for those who, I get it, are probably well-intended, but there's just things that we can all do better, right? And I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say negative, but common pitfalls that we see in our comms and marketing for different organizations and entities when they try to market to the military and the veteran community. And I thought it was better to have more of a positive conversation on multiple tools. And I felt like, Dan, you'd be the perfect person to have that conversation with.
Yeah, Tab, and let everybody know, we were just everybody knows, like Tab and I were talking about 15 minutes here before, and I had the same incident, right, that she didn't know about. I saw something for the Air Force birthday that was very inaccurate, right? And not as an Air Force nerd, but just as it was super inaccurate, and DM'd them. But that goes, when we were talking, right, it goes back to just the authenticity and the transparency. If you're a veteran organization, you have to put that effort in. And so, like you said, if the answer was, well, then find me something, right? And as Dan will know, the other Dan, shrub. Divots, like I'll scream divots, but not only when I scream divots, right? Like, cause like I love AI too. Is just like the veteran community, if we're going to sell to it, right? I'm going to sell you my bag of coffee, or I'm going to, or be a nonprofit and want donations from you. You can't have, I mean, let's just be real, right? You can't have asset. And then I'm sorry. And like what you said, like I didn't see the one that you were talking about, but I know like the one that I saw, I was just like, no, not accurate, way not accurate. Right. And then later that day, I saw you and I talked, I saw a second one and I was like, super inaccurate, right? Not even the right country. Well, the first one was not even the right country too, but and it's just, and it's part of, so again, Tab and I are talking, I have notes, and part of my notes is because I wanted to make sure that I had a lot of my brain knowledge as I'm older, was just that fact is just like, we can't sell to the military or promote the military and not be accurate with it, right? It doesn't do us justice. Yeah,
for sure.
Because I wouldn't do it, right? You're not going to do it. It's like, so why is someone else doing it? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. And I think too, and this is where we were like, well, where should we start this conversation today? And I think the first thing we said is this brand establishment. So it's basic marketing comms strategy really for any organization, whether you're marketing to the military or not. It's that, what is your brand? Have it established. What is the mission, or what is the thing we can say, right? Because I do think the trend that we also see is we feel like our marketing all has to be in like red, white, and blue. We feel like our marketing all has to like have rifles, guns, and bangs. And it can, right? I'm not saying that it can't, right? That's
right.
not what I'm saying.
You're fine.
But does that marketing match what your brand is and your brand is doing? Just because you want to market to the military doesn't mean that matches your brand and your brand's mission, right? And so I think that's, that's the first piece of the conversation, is that brand establishment.
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of, I just took and then Dan will know too, I just took that IVMF, Syracuse University class.
Yes.
For military founders. And then I have friends, Sam, who's over at Warrior Rising, right? And so you have organizations out there, because Reggie, and then Reggie's the other one who works for Warrior Rising, who then he has his own thing. He talks about brands, and it is, and that's the thing too. Like on the nonprofit side, because you and I were talking earlier too. So everybody, if again you're listening, is the nonprofit side to the for-profit side. Don't get them confused that one's here and then one's here. I'm looking at myself, right? One's here, one's over here. They're not. They're the same. You are trying to have something and you need donations for a nonprofit, and then you need sales for a for-profit. But in the marketing / sales funnel, it's the same thing, right? When you get down to the bottom, you need someone to buy my product, or I need someone to donate. And so when you're building that brand, and that's where I think for nonprofits, sometimes they can struggle. Like they try to do everything. Like, we're for veterans. That's a really broad target, right? And I get it. And so there's like stuff popping up.
There is. So, and what I was going to say, exactly what you said, Dan, is what Eddie said was where the identity and brand is so important, but I feel like it's hard for veterans because we're the Swiss Army knives of everything, and we're used to that identity. And I totally get that. And Dan and I had that conversation. However, when we're looking at it from profit, nonprofit, you have your mission. We don't all need to do 20 million things. Now, I say that as a PR person who, can I do some graphic design? Sure. It's not great. Can I get us by? Yes. Right. Can I do media relations? Yes. I've had more with that. I lean more heavy on the writing side and the speaking side, but it kind of goes the same when we're talking nonprofit and all of that. Like, if you're focused on mental health, yes, there's a gambit of that and there's things that come into it. But I feel it's first and foremost, you need to, with that brand, establish what your foundation is. And then if you want to add to that foundation, okay, but how does that tie in perfectly? Because it shouldn't just be, oh, we're going to add suicide awareness and suicide stuff because we know the VA has funding and they'll give us funding, or we know this entity has funding, so we're just going to add it. I think that's more where the conversation, when Dan and I are talking about establishing that brand, that brand, that's what we're looking at, right? It's not saying individuals can't do a lot of things, but
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, you'll see it on the first responder side too. So remember, right? I'm a cop for 7 years and, you know, 8th largest police department in the country. A lot of veteran nonprofits will include first responders. That's fine, right? But when if that's what your brand is going, but then that consistency, that's one of my other notes down here. That consistency has to keep going. Don't keep hitting Red Friday and then never talk about back to blue, right? If I first responders, if I do cops, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you'll find. And then you look at, you know, a nonprofit or even a for-profit's mission statement, you know, we support veterans and first responders, but everything is first response. I mean, everything is veterans thrown in your face. And you're like, where's you said you do first responders, but like where? So, because that is pretty diverse, right? And as again, someone who's been in both worlds, badge and gun was just as dangerous as when I went to Afghanistan, if not more, because I couldn't call in airstrikes, right? I was creeping through alleys by myself. And so that's what I'm saying. So people, they'll try to just generalize, like I support, and that's why it's really ones that are specific. Like Purple Heart ones are great. Like I know I worked for one that was a Purple Heart, but there's others. You know, and then like I said, the TACP Foundation, like just Air Force TACPs. We don't include because the Marine Corps has actually TACPs, right? Mm-hmm. We don't support, like that's not that we don't support them. We do support them, but we don't support them through the foundation. It's Air Force TACPs, right? And that's what we do, right? And then you can break down Gold Star families to other things, but you have to somewhere in your lineage, right, for support for the TACP Foundation, have been in an Air Force like TACP role and family, you know, type of scenario. And you find a lot more that are just, you know, trying to shotgun it. And I know we're harping on nonprofits. This goes, you know, Tab, like like for profit, same thing too. I've worked for a coffee company, obviously that's a big veteran supporter, but like I think they've done a phenomenal job. I know other veteran coffee companies are out there too, and even my little thing, right? Arrow and Honor Co. Like, it's veterans and archery.
Yes,
you know, I haven't done the first responder, and again, I've had friends who are like, "Well, hey, I was a cop with you in Baltimore. Let's do it." And I'm just thinking through that process because again, I don't want to just be like, okay, well, let's just open the doors and it's archery for everybody.
And I think this spurs two conversations, and I'll start first with where I don't hear enough conversation around is you brought up Red Friday. And I think for me, when I think marketing, and because I do so much social media, there is this bandwagon trend of I need to post on this day. I need to talk about this thing. You don't need to. At least from what I have seen, these national days do not bring me any more following on social media. They do not bring me any more, you know, whatever. And especially if you're posting on a day and you post an image that is inaccurate, it's actually hurting you more than just not posting on said day or said thing. And it's also make that day relevant to your audience then. So for example, again, I work at the Department of Agriculture. You know, I'm the president of the USDA's Veteran Employee Organization. So that means on Veterans Day, we don't focus on veterans as a whole. We focus on veterans and agriculture because that's who our audience is and that's who I can talk to. And that's not being non-inclusive, right? Having a target audience and speaking to them does not mean you're not being inclusive. Now, speaking to military spouses and acting like they're all women, that's not being inclusive.
I'm a military spouse.
Right? Now, are there certain trends and you know, again, I'm a female veteran where I get it on the other end of things. If you want to have hard conversations, that is more than great. I am a huge advocate for that and challenging perceptions. But again, it's not jumping on bandwagons just to jump on bandwagons. Is it going to help? How is it going to help you? And what is the call to action and what is the return you are getting for it? Or what are you hoping people will get from it? Otherwise, I'm on the side of, well, then don't say anything.
No, and Tab, you're right. Like, I mean, again, so I don't think I've beat the word up yet. So radical transparency. So again, for the TACP Foundation, right? I'll speak to it since I'm that guy, right? If you follow it, I didn't do like a Pearl Harbor post, right? Obviously, December 7th, right? Pearl Harbor, like it's big, right? I get it. But there weren't TACPs at Pearl Harbor, and so it's just like, and there wouldn't have been an image. Now a lot did, right? And you can go into Canva and you can go whatever, and you can do it, and that's fine. Like again, if you have the time and your message is there. But what I did do, right? So for Instagram, for the TACP Foundation, is I did share other organizations' Pearl Harbor posts to show that, like, hey, like we as an organization care. But I mean, if I throw something, I would tell you I didn't do, and I mentioned that, but I didn't do anything for the National Guard birthday. Yeah. And there are Guard Air Force TACP units. Is there a technical difficulty? What was that?
Corey, can you expand on that, on what you mean for, is there a technical difficulty?
Are we choppy? Are we good? I'm good. If you look, yep. Was Corey does that? Yeah. So I didn't do one for like the National Guard birthday, but again, I shared it on an IG story, right? But I just didn't have anything, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. But on the same token, here's one where I think I was a Karen a little bit, and I'll admit, and I won't be super specific, but my buddy Sam, the girl Sam works for Warrior Rising. Warrior Rising, I don't think, if I remember the conversation, they didn't do an Air Force birthday post, but they did a Coast Guard birthday post, and I was like, excuse me, what? And she was like, and someone was busy, and that's like, okay. But I DM'd them. I didn't make like, such a
yes
about it. And then but it's, and again, Warrior Rising doesn't have to. They didn't have to.
Correct.
But again, we talk about social media for you and I. Like I have a calendar, right? And so I hit the big, Army, Navy, right? Blah, blah, blah. Again, for the TACP Foundation, I tell you, like I did an IG story for the Army Navy game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Stuff like that. So I think, yeah, there's ways to do it without doing incorrectly, like you were talking, right? I have to do it, and then you do it incorrectly. And then you ask a veteran, does it really matter to you if you see the Happy Armistice Day or whatever? Or
yeah,
I don't even know. Armistice Day what is Armistice Day? It's one of them. It's actually a thing. It's anyway.
Yeah, no, it is. But
you get what I'm saying. Like it's just like okay. And so that's what brands need to do, though. They have. You and I work in this world. This is what some brands, though, and this is if no one's not a Karen, Bruce, is they don't have a staff, right? It could be just them. And then they're working a lot of that, and then so we get it, but like
invest in that, because I mean that's I think going to be the thing that I say. And we had this conversation where we're not really going to talk salary or that because it depends on where you live, all these things. But what I do see so often is underutilizing or undervaluing comms, PR, marketing, and not having it be an intricate part of your strategic planning or somebody who does it in your organization. Now, that does not mean that your social media manager is the jack of all trades and should do 20 million things, right? I mean, we see that often, and that's a whole nother like rant and can go really far. But what I'm asking of you for those,
it's the one man band picture.
Nonprofit,
yeah,
it is, and I understand that, but then finance them appropriately. And give them the tools they need. And when they suggest something, understand that they are the subject matter expert, more than likely.
Or give them the grace.
That should hold some weight.
Yeah. I would say, or give them the grace. So again, I understand you might not be able to pay them well, but if they're there and they're doing good work, give them some grace. Because this is what I found working for some other CEOs and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, it'll be very demanding.
Yes.
Well, just do this. Just go take those pictures in your kitchen. And you're like, first of all, I'm not the photographer, even though I might know some photography. Right. Yeah. But then you're just like, great. That's one picture. So there's one day out of the week, right? But everyone likes to think that it's just like, oh, just go do that. And you're like, okay, like that's not. So again, it's my old age, and I'll tell you, like, I work part-time as we talk, right? I work part-time for a vineyard here in Texas, and they're great. I've been doing like 16 hours, 15 hours a week kind of thing. But I go up there and I love the photography. All right. And I'm I'll egotistically like doing better, taking some photos for them and getting it out there and putting it into the world. But it's just like, I don't make a lot of money doing that. Right. It's
Yeah.
a nice thing. Yeah. But it's the flexibility. Right. And so they know.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think too, and this goes back to, I think you and I had this conversation, but where I see this trend when we're talking in the veteran military space, I think the comms is more advocacy based comms, no matter what you are doing. And I say advocacy in the sense because we're talking about more. Our conversations tend to be deeper conversations, whether that be the group we're serving or what the mission is, or even the product. I don't see most veteran or military talking about fluffy stuff. Oftentimes we're having harder conversations.
Yep.
And I think the other thing is that's where the storytelling and the understanding that comms in this space is not going viral and then you'll be successful. It is sustaining. It is consistency, as you said. It's brevity. It's clarity. It's not just going as viral as possible because, when I was on the recruiting side of the house and trying to get Marine Corps recruiters to get on social media, and they're like, why do I have to make a viral video? I was like, you don't need to make a viral video. That doesn't help me in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Yeah.
I need you to communicate with your educators. I need you to be at community events and challenge some of these perceptions and preconceived notions. And so I think when we look at it more from that angle of more of an advocacy comms than just comms and marketing and storytelling, that's where I feel like you have those brands and organizations that are able to live through the goods, the bads, no matter what happens, and make their way through it.
No, yeah, and people, I hear, like, I saw that
yeah.
So that's the thing where and very cautious is fine. But I would also, so is that the Marine Corps League?
Yeah, the Marine Corps League and the various detachments are very cautious when it comes to social media. Agree. And I could get on a tangent of that, where that's when at the national level, okay, how the Marine Corps works in the Marine Corps, the recruiting has a Marine Corps recruiting station who handles all the brand. And then each recruiting station gets brand assets from Marine Corps so that we're all the same. The Marine Corps League needs to emulate the Marine Corps a little more and do that, and should be giving their detachments more tools to be able to market the brand. And I feel like that's almost the same for all the VSOs, is if you're the national level, you need to provide more PR and marketing tools to your detachments that are kind of cut and paste stuffs. Every detachment should have access to PSAs. Every detachment should have access to billboards, to good branding posters that they just need to update. That's something that at the high level, they could spend some of their money so detachments don't have to spend their money and can just, piece it in so that it still matches the overall brand. That's how that's one thing that I'm seeing as a trend that could be done better.
Sure. Well, they have to trust. So I would tell you, just myself, right? Right. I'll again, my pat on the backs. When I first started with Black Rifle, like Evan, like I ran the LinkedIn page. Okay. I didn't work for the social media team. I worked for the founder, right? Now they monitored, right? And I would use some of their stuff, but it was me engaging, it was me posting, it was my schedule, and it was stuff that I did. Now, growing it from 10,000 followers to 280,000 followers wasn't me. It was the brand, right? But when I say that, though, it goes back to a trust. And any stuff that I've consulted with or worked for, I'm not a fan of the bottlenecks when we look at that social media, because and that comes in the trust. So that goes into who you're hiring, you know, or if they're already working for you and you're going to put them in that spot, you have to trust them, right? You got to be able to like, are they going to speak my language? And then even if it's, so again, like we'll go back to the vineyard. I'm probably not the target audience for the vineyard, right? It's like 80-20, like 80% women, 20% men, right? When you look at a social media audience. So if I talk too rough, that's where I have to be open to feedback from, right, the owners, to say, hey, let's everything's not about explosions and killing. Let's go a little bit more, right, flowers and sunshine. And you're like, okay, but those conversations are happened way before. And again, so I use the Bud Light example, and I say that, and I use it very just like I'm not going to Bud Light, because I mean Bud Light lost millions, right? And so when you get one post, if it's something that's not necessarily, you know, everyone wants to say like on brand, you know, on social media, it's just like, you know, again, you have to have these conversations. Like, this is the direction I want to go. I'll talk very openly, and again, I won't mention any of them. When I left Black Rifle, I went to go work for a military tribute beer company. I stayed there 67 days. But it was just a difference of opinion on where we wanted to take it. And they still wanted a lot of, I call it 2014, 2015 bro vet humor, right? That just wasn't, you know, in 2022, that wasn't where I was at. I don't think that's where the world was going. And I'm not going to compromise. And we talk about, and it's just, you know, it's creative. And that's where social media there are. I mean, Tab, there's agencies all over, right? There's agencies and there's people all over. If you, and I use this, and I'll be very like, if you like, say it's Marine Corps, like Marine Corps, like artillery or infantry, you're probably not going to hire an agency that's very flowery or fluffy, right? I won't even put politics. This will say flowery and fluffy, right? And you know, it's probably not it, or doesn't have any connection to the Marine Corps, right? Because I've done that. I worked for a company in Houston, and their agency was in Nashville. It was fine, but they didn't necessarily know too much about that industry from Nashville versus what they were doing in Houston. And so marketing, man, like, right? God, we could probably sit here for hours.
We could.
Soapbox. It is a soapbox of ask the right questions, get the right people on your team, right? I mean, transparency. You said two words. This is what, if anyone leaves this, consistency and sustainability. You have to be consistent. And if consistent is, I can only post on Wednesdays, great, because sustainability is what comes into it. Yeah. It's not just Wednesday if there's 4 Wednesdays in a month, and then I'm like, oh my God, I'm out of content. So I've talked to a lot of people, right? They're like, let's post 5 days a week. Okay. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 times 12 is, right? And then you do that math, and then you're like, do we have those photos? Do we have that content? And they're like, no. So if consistency is Wednesday, right? There's 1, there's 4 times 12, and then let's just try to work for that. And a lot of people don't. And again, I've worked for people and in places where it's been like, you keep asking me for media, for content. And you're like, yeah.
And I think for me, it spurs in the conversation of, I think specifically in the military and veteran community, word of mouth still holds the most power in marketing.
Sure. Yep.
It still holds the most power. And anybody who's military, veteran, or connected, think about a time that somebody told you something good or bad about a experienced veteran organization. Even just, I've moved to this new area and I need a primary care, I need an OBGYN. And one other person says, this person was great. And you're like, bet, got it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a multitude of reasons. I think partly because we are so used to the PCSing and the moving, and when we're looking for those resources, we rely on each other. Like, it's so overwhelming mentally when you move to a new place that if one person says, oh, this was great or this was horrible, you're like, got it, I'm keeping that and running with it. I feel like that same thing applies kind of with us forever, where if a veteran tells me something, I'm more likely to believe it than just some random person, random person or a random person wearing a brand. when a veteran or military connected says something, it holds so much weight. And I think that's where, yes, the brand awareness and the storytelling really plays that piece of where if you're consistent, it is going to start spreading. Sometimes
Yep.
it is that longer game, but it then goes back into your overall strategy of, have I planned this to be a longer game? You know, can this fulfill this? Because that's what's going to give you the long game, which should be the goal. And I'm just looking at my notes because we're at 30 minutes, but I said we would probably go like 15 minutes over. So we're going to wrap up. But if you guys have questions or there's something you didn't want to that we didn't talk about that you want us to talk about, please put it in the comments. So in the next 15 minutes, we'll try to get to that. But one of the things I did want to reiterate again is, so what tools are out there? And I think the biggest tool that's out there when we're looking at finding media, finding whatever, I want to have a conversation with Dan, because Dan does this so well, about where you're finding content and how you are giving credit to those who actually took the photos and images that you use. And so we're going to bring up Divids again, which is just DVIDS. Did I spell Divids right? And I'll put it in the comments when we're gone.
Ready for this? It's the Defense Visual Information Distribution System. That's
yes.
How well yep. So Divids, yeah, no, Tab. Divids, there's some caveats, right? If you're going to use it for commercial use, first of all, it's free, right? And Tab, and then Dan, if Dan's still on, Dan knows. The military has photographers, and they have to dump their photos. Stevie, I don't know if Stevie, my friend Stevie. So Stevie's a friend of mine, right? She and I were at BRCC together, and Stevie's, what's Stevie's? The chief. She's chief down like a Lackland for PR now, like GS, whatever. Anyway, photography, you have to dump your photos, and you dump your photos into Divids, DVIDS, Defense Visual Information Distribution System. And it's open to the public. And when I say that, you literally can go on Google. Well, I mean, you could go into Google and type in Air Force F-16 Divids, DVIDS, and something's going to pop up. It'll be a whole bunch of stuff. It'll be from Divids. And then you can click on, right, when you Google, you search it, and you can click on it, and it'll take you to Divids. Now, you're not going to be logged in, so this is where you have to get a login. But the login, they will accept, because it's a way to track you, because there are rules, right? And there are organizations that don't follow the rules.
We're looking at you all.
Yeah, there's some.
If you're on here.
Yeah. Well, but there are rules, and I don't follow them all even too. So to the fact of like, for not even a nonprofit, if you're using one, there is a disclaimer. Like the Department of Defense, Department of War, whatever, does not endorse. Okay. I get it. Put that in the comments then. Put that in the comments every once in a while. But a person, photographer, and I point more to you, Dan, you guys took photos, right? And they dumped into them, and that person might get out one day, right? And then be in a civilian spot in a transition. And it's nice for them to put on their resume, hey, my photo was used for this. I've done it a few times for the TACP Foundation. Mercedes, I think is her name. Gosh, she'll probably kill me. She does some guard stuff up in Idaho. And anyway, she takes a lot of photos for them. And it's always nice, to have them on there. I did it today, right? For my own personal one. Like, it's always, because I didn't take that photo, right? And you don't want anyone ever to believe you like, wow, man, you were on that aircraft carrier and you were in there for that landing. That was pretty cool. It's just not like that. And so you just give the photographer the credit, photo by, Corporal so-and-so. But there are so many there. And it's to a degree of, I've talked to companies, and you're like, okay, but Dan, I work in plumbing. Like, I'm a veteran-owned plumbing company. Cool. I guarantee you right now, if I go into Divids and I type in plumbing, I guarantee you I can probably find you at least a month's worth of photos that deal with plumbing through all the services. Just think about all the services, right? So, Marines, Air Force, Army, right? I mean, plumbing and construction and stuff. I guarantee you I could find some photos that we could spread out over a month that maybe deal with plumbing. And but again, if you're a for-profit, it's really a for-profit. So I'm a plumbing company. yeah, I'm going to put that, right? The DoD doesn't endorse, right?
Yeah.
Right. But you put that in the comment section, but you give the photographer their stuff. There's photos, go millions. I mean, it's gonna be hundreds of millions. Like, I don't even know.
Mhm.
Yeah. What's
Yeah.
that? What's the comment? Yeah.
And so we did get a comment
Yeah.
saying, this person lives in a military town. There's so many
Yeah.
veteran organizations that it becomes more noise on the social media instead of being resourceful. And that's where, again, although I'm a social media person, social media is not the end all be all. It's not. Do I think you should have a presence there? Yes, because it's a free tool. It really is. You can completely be on social media for free and utilize it as a credibility, as all of these things.
Yep.
But that's where, again, it goes so much back to the conversation of what is your brand, what is your niche, and what is the one thing that you provide to the community that others are not, or how are you providing it in a way that others are not?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you don't know those, no amount of marketing is going to help you. It's just not. You have to know those things. And that's what your marketing and your comms needs to be surrounded by. And it doesn't have to be a bashing. And this is where I think we do a really good job individually on LinkedIn, but as organizations, I would like to see more is interacting with each other and saying, oh, I don't do this, but this organization does, right? And interacting more
Oh, yeah.
on that sphere. And I feel like we do it decently. But I think we could do better on the organization side as what we're doing on the individual side.
Yeah, I would tell you right now too. If you are a social media person, or if you're not and you're just an owner and you have a page, you as your page can comment and engage. It doesn't have to be so, right? Radical transparency, again, maybe it's the third time I've said it, like the TACP Foundation, that's me. Like, and so Combat Control Foundation, Pararescue Foundation, the Green Beret Foundation, I will go in as the TACP Foundation and like post, right? US Army or, Air Force and blah, blah, blah. Like, and even make a comment, and I would tell you, even as a comment, this is my other kick. If you can't comment words, at least, I mean, a lot of people will tell you like, well, don't just comment an emoji. I would tell you, comment an emoji is better than like even no comment, right? So I'm a big fan of the muscle arm one or the explosion one. But you do that, and you do that as your brand. I think we were harping on nonprofits a lot, but if you do that as your brand,
yeah,
that is almost just as, people will tell you, gold as posting. Like, if you can't come up with a post, then go in as your company.
Yeah.
Because people still, it's a heartbeat. People like, oh, okay, well, they commented, they're still alive, but they haven't made a post in 4 months. Okay, but they're commenting weekly. Okay, I mean, they're still there.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, right, yeah. So yeah, I would say that's another part of it. Yeah.
And I think it's training your people who do work within your organization or serve within your organization or have a part of it. Train them to feel confident in being spokespeople. Do they know what is actually being done? Do they know their own role? And do they know what they can and can't talk about, or what they should and shouldn't talk about? Because that's the other thing. I mean, I look at how many people know things about the USDA who are not involved in ACT. And it's just because I talk about it. I don't talk about it all the time, but I talk about it enough. And when I do, and because it's already my passion, well, most people who are involved in something in the veteran, whatever connection, they're probably passionate. So use that passion, because like I do stuff all the time after hours, not when I'm working, right? That involves veterans and agriculture. Use that. Give them the tools they need. You don't have a social media person? Well, then find somebody that you can bring in to train your team to feel comfortable in their own personal social medias, right? Again, this goes back into a deeper conversation. Oh, we worried about ethics, morals, it's not aligning. Well, then that's a further problem. That's an HR thing. That's a something else thing, right? That like you should be confident enough. And if not, then don't be scared to cut ties with people. If they don't match the brand, the ethics that you have, then be willing to cut the ties, but give them the opportunity, and also give people the grace of social media and understanding that things aren't perfect, but give them the tools to be able to do that. There's plenty of people who can train, especially in that space, and would be willing to. And maybe it is easier to say, okay, well, I can spend 10,000 on this, however much it is to train my team. I know I can raise the money or put the money there for that, but I can't yet afford to pay somebody a salary to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, right? That's again where it comes back to the strategy of with what you have, how can you make the biggest impact? And I think that's also one way that like train your people to be able to promote what you're doing.
Oh yeah, I mean, I say I got known. I didn't get known, but there were like back in a BRCC days. Yeah, like I mean, I was making coffee posts and videos. Like I was making coffee on my paddleboard, right? Michael Quinn, right? I know people love or hate him, whatever. Like Mike is fine with me, but Mike always made jokes about right, watching my coffee videos, making when I made coffee on the paddleboard. I haven't necessarily stopped that. Like I do that, but like again, making those videos, yeah, it was work, but that fit in like what you were saying. It fit in with the brand, so there was never ever an issue. And so, you know, I mean, you know, if you work in IT, and that's the thing, people will get that. We got about 4 minutes. People will say like, well, I work in IT though, and how do I fit that in? I mean, it's just, and I say it's easy. It's to a point of like, so I love media. I know you love media, right? And so it's just like, how do I take a photo of me on a laptop? How many times can I do that? Yeah, you can't do it every day. Like every day, you don't want a picture of you clicking away on your keyboard. But I think there's ways that tie it in, for sure. Like, but it does take effort, right?
Yes.
And that's personal branding going with company or nonprofit, again, right? Branding. But that's where trust, and again, enough education to them, like you're saying, because you don't want someone goes off the rails. You want to make sure that you're like, woo, like that you had that conversation.
Yes.
So they don't. Yeah. But that's military 101.
Exactly.
Not everyone that maybe is watching is military, but we know that.
Yes.
You have SOPs. And and you just set those guidelines, set those SOPs, and then set them free.
Yeah. It works. And again, we have like 3 minutes. So if anybody has questions, comments, this is kind of the last effort, or leave them. And maybe another time. I just saw Dan's comment. Y'all need to make this an hour next time. Well, I only have a 30-minute lunch. And I started 15 minutes early because I knew we would probably go past 30 minutes.
I'm remote, not doing anything today. Monday, that's why Tab and I will tell you too. Like this is Mondays. I'm open Mondays. The next thing I have is picking my son up from school about 4 o'clock, and then we have a 6 o'clock basketball game.
That's exciting. We have our first band concert today. Not to get off topic, but I feel like, oh man.
How old?
All right. He's 12. So
12?
middle school, first time in band. Yep.
What instrument?
Baritone.
What is that?
It is a smaller tuba.
Okay.
I think it's big. It's a big horn.
Mine did band for a year. Noah's 13, so that's my 13-year-old. I have a 13-year-old. He played the trombone for a year, and for a year was it. He was like, I'm done.
Yeah, we'll see. I think Odin said he wants to switch to a string instrument, and I was like, yes, please. I will take it. Yep. Thank you. But we're now getting off topic. I want to thank Dan, you for this conversation so much. I had a great time. Again, anybody who will probably end this now, since we're not having questions, and who knows where in 2 minutes of freedom we would go.
This is a podcast. This is where someone's a podcast weekly of just goofiness.
Oh, I love it. All right. Yeah. And then Bruce says, love the conversation. Looking forward to more of these. So we'll let you know if we do this again. But yeah, let us know anything we didn't talk about. And maybe we do another one someday with that specific topic conversation.
Yeah, or hit us up, right? Tab, just hit us up and we'll post and do conversations for.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dan, again. Thank you, everybody, for attending.